Hey there, my name is Joey. I'm the founder of a new ministry called Restored. We help teenagers and young adults who come from broken families to heal and grow so they can feel whole again and thrive. Not long ago, a woman I call Mary reached out to me to share her story. She said that as a little girl, she would watch her parents fight all the time. Their marriage was a mess and they really needed some help, but they never did much to fix or heal their marriage. And so the dysfunction continued on for years. Fast forward to when Mary was in high school, her mom came to her and she said, "I want to divorce your dad." Mary didn't really know what to say to that, so she said, "I just want the fighting to stop." Her mom went through with a divorce, and what seemed like a solution, honestly, to a really bad, messy situation just made things worse, especially for Mary. It was one problem on top of another. Now, up to that point, she said she just held all of her pain inside. She didn't really act out, but that all changed when she got off to college. She got into the party scene. She started drinking heavily. That led to dating the wrong guy. She ended up marrying one of those guys who was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and their marriage was a mess as well. Now they get pregnant, and because Mary was terrified that her baby would grow up in that hell, she got an abortion. And that obviously brought a ton more pain into her life. And following the abortion, she divorced her husband, repeating the cycle started by her parents. And once the dust settled, she fell into a deep depression. She still deals with emotional issues today. Now, whenever I think of Mary's story, I can't help but think, what if? What if someone was there to help her navigate the pain and the problems from her broken family in a healthy way instead of the unhealthy ways she fell into? What if someone was there to help her heal, to get her professional help? I can't help but think that her life would not have turned into the tragedy that it became. Now, I wish I could tell you people like Mary are rare, that this is uncommon, this doesn't happen a lot. But the sad truth is the U.S. Census estimates that over 1 million American children go through their parents' divorce every year. And they define a child as anyone 17 and under. That means right now, there are tens of millions of people who come from broken families, who've endured the trauma of their parents' divorce. But some people might ask, is this really a problem? Like, aren't kids resilient? And thankfully, we have really clear research to answer the question, how does divorce affect the children? And what researchers have found is that children of divorce are more likely to have social problems, behavioral problems, difficulty in their relationship with their parents, difficulty in romantic relationships. They're more likely to get divorced themselves. They're more likely to fall into depression and violence. They're less likely to get married. They're more likely to attempt suicide. Typically, they're less physically healthy. They struggle more in school. They have more emotional problems and struggle with lower self-esteem. Now, one of the sources for those findings wasn't just like one study. It was actually a meta-analysis study. And if you're not familiar with what that is, basically it's where researchers, instead of conducting their own study, they look at studies that have already been conducted and summarize their findings. And this meta-analysis was published in the Journal of Family Psychology by Paul Amato from Penn State, and he looked at 67 different studies on children of divorce. Another researcher, another expert who spent time studying children of divorce is Dr. Judith Wallerson. She was at the University of California, Berkeley. And what she did is for 25 years, she studied children of divorce. And she put all of her findings in her book, The Unexpected Legacy of Divorce. And what she did is she studied 131 children from 60 families. And one important detail to know about the research is that she only picked children who didn't have any emotional or developmental problems prior to the divorce, and then she compared them to their peers who came from intact families after the divorce, judging how the divorce would have affected them. And honestly, going into the research, she said she expected to find that divorce wasn't very traumatic, and that if there were any negative effects, they would be short-lived. But she found the exact opposite. And after years of studying this, she said, our findings challenge the myth that divorce is a transient crisis, and then as soon as parents reestablish their lives, the children will recover fully. That doesn't happen. And she found in her research that children of divorce were less likely to get married, they're more likely to get divorced, they're less likely to have children, they're much more likely to use drugs or alcohol in high school, they're less likely to even finish high school, less likely to go to college, more likely to drop out, they're far less likely to receive financial support from their parents for college, and the men, interestingly, were less likely to enter an intimate relationship. And again, after years of just studying these children and just pondering over these findings, she said, parents like to believe if they are unhappy in their marriage, the children will also be unhappy. Conversely, if divorce is better for them, it will be better for the children. But things don't work that way. Children frequently do not share their parents' unhappiness with a problematic marriage, while a divorce brings pain into their lives that until now has gone unrecognized. We are allowing the children to bear the psychological, economic, and moral brunt of divorce. Heavy words for sure, but two main takeaways from her research. One, she found that the full effects from one's parents' divorce aren't experienced until adulthood. It's called the sleeper effect. And the area of our lives that it comes out the most is in our romantic relationships, which we'll cover in another video. So yes, to answer the question, is divorce really bad for children? The answer is yes. This is a problem. It is a trauma. It is a tragedy. And we need to start treating it as such. And one of the things that is even true is even in cases where separation or divorce might be necessary because of violence or abuse, it's still a really difficult thing to go through. And as a culture, again, we need to start treating it as such. We often talk about divorce like it isn't a big deal, like everyone's better and happier, when a lot of times the children are really struggling, but we often just struggle in silence. We don't talk about it, so people don't really know what we're going through. But this is traumatic. It is really something difficult to deal with. And I know this on a personal level. When I was 11 years old, my parents separated and they later got divorced, and it absolutely shattered my world. It brought so much pain and so many problems into my life. I dealt with emotional problems like anger, anxiety, depression. I dealt with unhealthy coping like pornography or acting out in other ways. And if someone would have told me when I was an 11-year-old boy going through all of that this event in my life, my broken family, my parents' divorce, would impact my future relationships and my marriage as much as it has, I wouldn't have believed them. But it absolutely has. And so as a young boy, I knew that I wanted to be happy, but I felt broken. And so in my pursuit of love, of happiness, of freedom, I felt stuck. I felt held back by my own brokenness. And so I discovered this principle that's true in life, that after sin, the thing that holds us back most from becoming who we're created to be is our untreated brokenness. And so I knew that I needed to heal. By the way, this was after I'd already gotten into my faith. I'd met really good Catholic friends who were happy and I wanted to be happy. I'd started to live the virtue of chastity in my life, but again, I still felt broken. So I looked around for some sort of resource, some expert, some guides, a book, a retreat, something, a ministry perhaps, that would help me navigate the pain and the problems that I dealt with and teach me how to heal. And I was shocked to find that there was nothing practical that exists. And the reason that baffled me so much is I looked around and I saw how my siblings were struggling. I saw how friends of mine, close friends of mine, who came from broken families were struggling as well. And after seeing all that, I just started reading the research and understanding that this is a very devastating, traumatic event, yet no one's really treating it as such. So I started my ministry, like I mentioned. It's called Restored, and we help teenagers and young adults who come from broken families to heal and grow so they can feel whole again. The main way we do that is through our content, through coaching, and through community. And one of our main goals is to really wake up our culture to the fact that the brokenness in our families, especially when your parents get divorced, it's devastating, it's really difficult to go through because, like I mentioned, it's not treated as such in our culture. So we want to bring awareness. We want people to wake up to this fact. And to any of you who come from broken families, I want to say a few things to you. The first thing is, I get it. I know how difficult it can be. I really wish that I could say something that would take away all of your pain, make it easier. But the truth is, this is really hard. It's really difficult to go through, and there's no quick fix. There's nothing that I could say to make it magically go away. I also want you to know that if you feel hurt by it, if you feel like you're not good enough, you feel rejected, abandoned by your parents, there's nothing wrong with you. It's actually normal to feel that way. It's strange that people say that it's not a big deal, and so just know that there's nothing wrong with you for feeling that way. And also, I'm so sorry for what you've been through. I'm so sorry, especially that people haven't treated you and haven't treated this event in the appropriate way. This was an injustice to you. Regardless of the reason for the divorce, you deserve two parents, a mom and a dad, who love each other and stick together, and that was taken from you. Again, regardless of the circumstances, it's an injustice to you. I also want you to know that it's not your fault. It is not your fault. For one reason or another, so many of us blame ourselves, or maybe we think that we could have done something to prevent it from happening. But the truth is, the problems that led to the breakdown of your parents' marriage were probably there well before you were. And so there's nothing you could have done to cause it. There's nothing you did to And so there's nothing you could have done to cause it, there's nothing that you could do to fix it, and there's nothing you could have done to prevent it. Just know that it's not your fault. And I also want you to know you're not doomed to repeat your family's dysfunction. You're not doomed to repeat the mistakes that you saw in your parents' marriage. You can write your own story. You can build healthy relationships. You can build your own beautiful family. And finally, you're not alone. There's so many of us who've been through the trauma of our parents' separation or divorce, and we deal with the same things that you deal with, and you're not alone. In fact, my ministry is here for you, and if we could help you in any way, we're here to help. One resource I wanted to mention that I wrote for you, we published for you, is this book. It's called It's Not Your Fault, A Practical Guide to Navigating the Pain and Problems from Your Parents' Divorce. It features 33 questions and answers on the most pressing challenges faced by young people who come from broken families. And so if you want the first chapters free, just click the link in the description. On that page, just click Get Free Chapters, put in your name, your email, and then we'll email you those chapters. I hope that's helpful. If you want those chapters, get them now. Thank you so much for watching. We do this for you.